Arrival is a new sci-fi film starring Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, and Forest Whitaker. And this movie was very vague in the trailers. There was not a lot shown in the trailers. You basically know nothing about this movie while going into it. So the plot is basically that Amy Adams is like a translator who knows very much about speaking and communication in different languages. So she ends up being hired to communicate with these weird alien things that have come to Earth, because there's these giant alien capsules that are landing in certain places on Earth, and Amy Adams is hired to work with Jeremy Renner to communicate with said aliens. The movie is basically just them trying to communicate with these aliens, and through this communication, there is a huge revelation that happens for these characters. So guys, Arrival is a movie I was really looking forward to because the trailers were so intense, and they were so secretive, and I was like, I like when movies do this because we literally knew nothing about this film while going into it. And I love it when movies do that. Like 10 Cloverfield Lane was super secretive, and this was pretty much just as secretive as that was. So I was super excited to see what this film could bring us because they showed us nothing in the trailers. I was seeing insanely good reviews and saying this is the new Interstellar, it's a new movie that will really test your brain power. And I gotta say, Arrival is absolutely fantastic. I mean, this year is getting great. I mean, we had Hacksaw Ridge last weekend, and now we have this movie. I can't believe how good 2016 is getting. We've had two phenomenal movies in 2 weekends. One of the things that obviously carries Arrival is the performance from Amy Adams. Now, Amy Adams is an actress I like a lot, but this may be her best performance she's ever given. She was absolutely fantastic in this movie, and I really hope she gets some Oscar buzz for this movie. I doubt she will because the Oscars seem to hate sci-fi, but I'm really hoping she gets Oscar buzz because she was absolutely fantastic in this movie. She gives a very somber performance, and her performance was so emotionally heavy, and she carried the movie. The movie really is a character discovery for Amy Adams. She is the character that this movie focuses on. And Jeremy Renner as well was also very good. I really liked him in this movie. At first you don't really know much about him or his purpose in the film, but then as the movie goes on, they sort of reveal his purpose, and it's like, oh, that's why he's in this movie. And Jeremy Renner mainly was just a comic relief for most of the time that just helped out Amy Adams. But later in the movie, his character is given a lot more depth. So I really love Jeremy Renner in this movie. It's so good to see Jeremy Renner in another great film because Jeremy Renner is a very good actor. Guys, the thing I love most about Arrival is that this is a very slow, quiet film. This movie is very different from the Independence Day or the War of the Worlds or the Signs, because those movies are about alien invasions. This movie isn't really even an alien invasion. There's just some aliens that go on a planet and they have a certain purpose there. And it's not really an alien invasion movie because the whole movie is basically just them trying to communicate with these aliens. The whole movie is basically just them going up into the giant pod thing, trying to communicate with them, going back and planning other ways that they can communicate with them and figuring out their language and stuff, and then going back and trying again, and then going back and forth from trying to basically crack this case of the aliens. If you're looking for an Independence Day type film, you're not going to get that because Arrival is a very original film. You may watch the trailers for this movie and just say, oh, this is your stereotypical alien arrival movie. This is your stereotypical alien invasion film, but it's not. This film is drastically different than anything I have ever seen. This movie is really different. It's one of the best alien movies ever. This movie is probably in the top 5 alien films of all time. I rarely see movies like this anymore because it takes a concept that's sort of been done before, but really turns it on its head and makes it so different, because normally in alien invasion movies they show mass destruction, and it works so well. I was constantly intrigued with this movie, even if it was very slow. The slowness didn't hinder the movie at all, because it's a very different style than every other alien movie we've ever seen. It's different, it's slow, and it's just two races trying to get along and communicate. And it's so riveting, even if it is slow. And Arrival is also a movie that is extremely extremely smart. This movie, you need to constantly be paying attention to everything. If you lose your focus for 1 second, you're not going to know what's going on. This is a movie you need to pay full attention, and you need to actually use your brain. It doesn't spoon feed everything in your mouth. It really requires you to think. It's like a puzzle where you have to connect the dots of the plot. And as the movie goes on, you're sort of connecting the dots in your head, and they don't spoon feed the information into your mouth. There's virtually no exposition in this film. It's literally all just you trying to figure out things for yourself. It's like you're actually in this film and you're in the mystery of it all. You're trying to figure out this mystery just like the characters are. You're seeing it from the character's perspective. And if you're someone who doesn't like to use their brain while watching movies, first of all, I don't understand you, and second of all, you shouldn't watch this movie because you need to actually think while watching this film in order to understand it. And I love films like that. I love films that respect their audience and understand that their audience is smart, because this movie does that. And through the last act of this movie, it blows your mind. When I watched the first 2 acts, I was just like, hey, this is a really good movie. This is really well directed. It's really suspenseful. And then the third act happened, and I was like, what? The third act is when it gets really confusing and you have to connect the dots in your head, and it takes so many twists and turns that you don't expect. This is literally like an earlier Shyamalan movie. This is very much like The Sixth Sense or Unbreakable. It's very much that style film, a very slow, thought-provoking film. And if Shyamalan never went to crap, I feel like this is one of the movies he would have made. This definitely does feel like a very earlier Shyamalan movie because of all the twists and turns and mind-boggling things in this film. It's very similar to The Sixth Sense in the way that the twists in this movie really blow your mind, and it's thought-provoking. This movie is very thought-provoking. It took me a while to think about what grade I was going to give this movie because I needed to think about it. I needed to digest this movie. This movie takes a lot of digestion because you have to think about it a lot. It's so thought-provoking. I mean, I was literally talking to a few of my friends and my dad who saw the movie with me, and we were trying to piece things together in our head. It's a movie that requires theorizing. It's a movie that requires thinking, and I love that. I love so many things that just don't spoon-feed information in your mouth. That's one of the reasons I love the Five Nights at Freddy's games, believe it or not, because there's a lore for that whole series, and they don't spoon-feed the lore into your mouth. You have to put pieces together while you play those games. It's a very weird comparison, but that's how I felt while watching this movie. I love things that just have you put together puzzles. It's like a detective story. It's like Sherlock, the TV show. And I also have to mention the visuals and the suspense in this movie is done so well. There are so many suspenseful scenes involving the aliens, and there are so many really visually stunning scenes in this movie. I could talk about Arrival forever. I could talk about this movie forever. I literally want to do an analysis of this movie. I mean, like sort of a Chris Stuckman style video, because I loved it that much. This is literally one of the best movies of the year. It's one of the most smart movies of the year. And 2016 is finally getting great. I loved Arrival to death. It's one of the best movies of the year, easily. And I have no flaws with this movie. I can't think of a single flaw with this film. It is so perfect in every way, and it's a movie that if you're a film goer, it's something you need to see. You can't miss this movie. You need to see this. It's a must-see of the year, and if you miss it, I will be very upset with you, because Arrival is really... It's a movie for film buffs, and it's a movie for people that love to use their brain and put pieces together while watching the film, because it does that so well. Guys, I'm gonna give Arrival an A+.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
I'm surprised too. I didn't even think this movie would be as good as it was, but it really was. 2016 is getting fantastic. I mean, we literally had 2 A+s in a week. And Civil War was my only A+ the entire year for a long time. 2016 is getting amazing. I love this. I'm so excited for what else 2016 has to offer. And don't miss Arrival. This movie is amazing. So guys, if you like my review of Arrival, be sure to comment your thoughts on Arrival below in the comments. And be sure to like this video. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.